Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we're going to talk about health and purging. And we've talked a lot about all kinds of different elements of health, and this is in some ways part of the series on overcoming cancer and other obstacles, but I'm going to run this all on its own. To find your way to health, there are all sorts of dynamics. And, we've talked about pillars of health, including sleep, diet, exercise, stress reduction, so many different supplement solutions. There's so many different elements to a healthy life. And, a lot of it has to do with homeostasis, finding balance within your body. Your body is a highly dynamic, highly complicated system of electrical currents and living cells and organisms within the cells and mitochondria and bacteria and just so many moving parts, hormones and other chemicals and receptors and delivery systems and chemicals that make things happen, organs that are cleaning and pushing and receiving and distributing and all of these things happening all at once. And for those of you who are atheists, yeah, sure, this just happened on its own, just friggin' flukes. Um, Note my sarcasm. I'm sorry, there's clearly a divine design to the human experience. And I just get blown away by people who go, yeah, it just happened. Whatever. I mean, that's not the point of this conversation. This conversation is pointing out a system or an action that can be very helpful in health. So we go through our lives and we collect things and we lose things. And we have cells that reproduce. They replicate over and over again, and over time, the genetic code distorts sometimes, mutates sometimes, bits and pieces get lost. There's also ways that can be regenerated and restored. I believe that, inside of us, we all have the master blueprint that we were given when we were born, and we have tools that can reset it. But, that's part of what this conversation's all about, is how do we find health? What is health? Is your body at its optimum state? It's everything is at its best. And, we all come to a point in our lives where we're at that place. We're at that pinnacle of our health. And I believe there's no reason we can't at any given time go back to that place, maybe even surpass it. We're constantly eating, we're constantly breathing, we're constantly coming in contact with various compounds, chemicals, minerals, even just our clothing affects us. We absorb everything around us. So many things get absorbed into our body through breathing and our skin and eating and all different ways. And some of these compounds that we absorb, they do good things for us. Some of them do not so good things for us. Some of them pass through us quickly and are removed, and others stick around. There's things like heavy metals and forever chemicals, and there are things that can plague us, and over time as we gather more and more of them, they begin to have an impact, like lead poisoning, mercury poisoning, cadmium, all these different minerals and compounds, and not to mention radiation. Um, there's so many different things that we collect over time, and I've always kind of equated it to like barnacles. You're a new boat in the water and you're skimming along doing really good, and over time you pick up some barnacles, and eventually you slow down a little bit, and then eventually you slow down more and more, and maybe you decide to scrape all those barnacles off. And when you do that, you realize, oh wow, shoot, I'm going much faster than I was. Excuse me. um so that's what takes me to this idea of the purge. There are reductions and ways that we lose things. We sweat. Sometimes we exercise vigorously and we sweat a lot. We go into a sauna, we sweat a lot. There's things that we do to, cause our sweat system to work overtime. And when we do that, we remove toxins, we remove minerals, we remove things. Sometimes we'll fast and our body will, go into its respective systems where autophagy and apoptosis, cell die-off occurs. Your body turns on switches that say, oh, we need to be more effective, more efficient. We need to take care of business a little more. um, Sometimes things like cleansing diets, where we're eating excessive amounts of fiber and drinking a lot of water, and causing our body to clean itself. These are all cleaning systems that are in some ways purging. But when I'm talking about purging, I am talking about purging. So when we think the term purge, we're thinking about quickly and aggressively removing substances from our body, usually by puking. That's generally the idea of a purge, is you're throwing up, you're puking. Um, you know, there's other ways that you could purge, and we're going to talk about, multiple layers of the concept of purge. So, as I've been on this health journey, prior to my diagnosis of squamous cell carcinoma, I realized I've got this lump on my neck that's not getting any smaller. And in fact, it's getting bigger, and it's something. And, I had a doctor that told me, oh, don't worry about it. It's not cancerous, but you still need to take care of it. Um, and we think about that. Excuse me. I'm overcoming a dust storm from a few days ago, and my body is purging phlegm out of my lungs while we're talking. Anyways, you think about cancer and you say, well, cancer is a series of mutated cells that basically rebel against the body and decide that they're going to survive regardless of what stressors are put on them. And they change in such a way that they become very strong and aggressive, and they multiply in a way that will ultimately take over the body and kill it. Um, and we say, well, there's all kinds of reasons that can cause this. And the truth is, they don't know. They can find markers that say, well, you were a smoker, or there's a hormone connection, or it's genetic. In some cases, they're finding connections to things like glyphosate, different chemicals. They find all kinds of connections. They say, well, you've been exposed to these compounds and you got cancer, therefore this caused that. You know, so much of it is speculation. What we do know is that the stresses of our lives ultimately can and often do cause cancers and other problems. And so let's think about this. You go through your life, you start out knowing nobody. You start out, your mom and maybe your dad, maybe your brother or sister is your whole world and your whole life. And then eventually, you know more people. Your life gets bigger and bigger. Then eventually you have relationships. Eventually you have problems with those relationships. Some people, um, stack problems pretty quickly. Some people avoid problems, introverts that just, keep to themselves. Maybe they're more prone to problems because they don't, interact well with people, or they avoid them. But at the end of the day, we all end up having relationship problems. Some of us deal with them well and move past them, own them, deal with them, and move on. And we learn tools to have healthy relationships. Others, many of us, don't figure those things out or don't figure them out well enough, and we hang on to bad relationships. We allow toxic relationships to exist in our life. And oftentimes, I believe that we uh, gloss over or stick our head in the sand or pretend that they're not causing the harm that they are. But every stress that we have does cause harm. And hormones like cortisol and some of the negative fight and flight responses that we have because of conflicts and problems and betrayals and losses of love and all of the sadness and the fear and the angst and the all the problems that come up from poor relationships. Many people hang on to these things. And I know that I, for one, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm always trying to, well, I was anyways. I always tried to, find the best in people. And I'd find a person and I would see them not only for who they were, but for their potential. I could see what they could be. I could see a friendship that was something, but I always thought, wow, look what it could be. And I would make excuses and look the other way when things happened that were clearly against that reality, and clearly showing me that this person was not what I was making them out to be. They were not that at all. And over in my life, oftentimes because I was building a community, in the cannabis world that I was in for many years while I was advocating and fighting my battle and running the human solution and helping people with their cases all over the country, even other countries. I would say, well, no one should go to jail for a plant. So therefore, if somebody is being accused of a crime that had to do with cannabis, they were good people no matter what. And it was just wrong that they were being accused. So therefore, I'm going to be their friend. I'm going to advocate for them, and I'm going to overlook whatever problems there were. And looking back, that was the dumbest fucking thing I could ever do. I I I made excuses for people that had no interest in anything other than what they could take from me. And I fooled myself into believing they were going to help support and build this community. And, even though some of them did for some period of time, literally everyone except for a small handful of the people that I worked with, that I supported, that supported me at one period of time, everybody but a very small handful at one point either left because it didn't serve them anymore, or left because they had some conflict with another person and tried to pit me between the two, or just, you know, walked off because whatever, some personal beef. They got their feelings hurt. they felt unappreciated because they didn't get doted on. They didn't get the attention that they were used to because we were trying to be a team. So many reasons, and either they left or they actually turned and tried to cause me harm, and the accusations I've gone through in this world and trying to advocate and help people, it's unbelievable. I am frankly surprised that I sat there and took it for so long, but I have this integrity that I can't seem to get away from. And because I went through this battle, and because I had a lot of people that did stand by me that were instrumental in my victory, I said, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to stand by these people no matter what, and I'm going to, make it work. And what I did inadvertently was allow a really toxic environment to happen. And over the 14 years, I absorbed the stress of one after another, just really toxic actions, activities, accusations. And I never really took into account the amount of stress that caused. I did take to account the stress that being arrested and being charged with crimes that, I didn't believe were crimes, and being tried and convicted and all of that. I recognized all that stress, but I never really recognized that stress of the people that took and took and took and turned and stabbed and did all these really shitty things to me. And then finally, sometime not that damn long ago, I realized that this just isn't worth it. And I think part of it had to do with getting involved in different plant medicine and working with different people. Um, it was really a dichotomy because the cannabis plant is so amazing and does so many good things. And I really believe that all the people that were connected to it were good people. And there are plenty of good people that I am connected to through this. But frankly, most of the activists and advocates were not what they seemed, and ended up causing me more grief than good. And finally, I realized that, you know what? Screw this. It's not worth it. Any single person that began to give me grief, I just said, you know what? Time to go. And over the last couple of years, I've been letting people go pretty quickly and easily. Well, as this lump is growing and I'm going, more and more thinking I got to get myself healthy, and, starting to go to doctors and getting some answers, I have come in contact with a number of medicine people, facilitators, shamans, medicine men and women. Um, and I'll be talking a lot more of that in the future. But I worked with mushrooms, I've worked with cannabis, I've worked with peyote, and I've worked with DMT. And in the last year, I became aware of, and uh, I don't know, became intrigued with a compound called Kambo, which is the poison of a frog. And the way that this medicine's supposed to work is you get a little burn mark on you, or several of them, and then the poison is dripped into the burn, and it induces this massive purge. And it scans your body, and it searches around and finds the things problematic with it, and then you retch and puke. And I went through a couple of different experiences with that, with different medicine people, and I'll talk about those a little more in the future. But after doing this, I did it 2 weeks in a row and had two very different experiences, but very powerful experiences. And after doing these, I got this awareness. And the thing that's happened with the plant medicines that I've been taking is that I've become more in tune with my own body, with my own subconscious, with my spirit, and I feel that I'm being directed by my own body as to what I need to do to get healthy. And it was wild. Shortly after, a day or two afterward, I just got this incredible notion of what am I hanging on to all this stuff for? And I got rid of a huge amount of cannabis, over 200 pounds. I composted it, keef and flour and all this stuff that was connected to people that had done me wrong. And it had a value. I could have extracted it, made medicine with it, but I realized like, oh, I'm hanging on to this stuff because at one point it had a different value to me. And I neglected what it was doing, hanging on to these people's energy that was connected to it. And then I looked around and I had a patio full of stuff, full of extraction equipment, full of tools, full of things that were really from a previous point in my life and things that I was doing a few years back, I'm not doing anymore. And the people that I was doing them with have all left me or caused, or worse, caused me grief. And I realized, I go, I need to get rid of this stuff. Just why do I have it? So I started selling. I started throwing away. I started purging and immediately felt relief from this. Um, and instantly, when that began, there was a shift in my energy. And I know that I don't know how it works, but when you uh, have a growth period or you make a decision and you know you're going to stick to it, your energy, your frequency changes. And there's effects from that. And I noticed that certain people that were in my life all of a sudden flared up and began causing me problems. And I realized, wow, why are you in my life? And I just instantly just said, you're gone. I just hit the button and they were gone. And I have frankly removed over 90% of the people that were in my life, and I just said, well, I'm either putting you on the shelf or I'm sending you to the oubliette, and you're done. You're not in my life anymore. And it was really incredible because as this was happening, some new people were entering into my life. And these are amazing, wonderful people. And not only that, but some people that had been in my life many, many years ago that, sometimes you separate from people for no good reason. Sometimes people's paths just separate. Life happens and you just don't hang out anymore. And I've been able to reconnect to a couple of really good friends that were some of my best friends in my younger days, and we're rekindling our friendship and spending time together again. And it's been really incredible to see what has happened with removing things that didn't serve me anymore, and not accepting that anymore, not making excuses for it anymore. And I believe that in no small part, my cancer was caused from all of these stresses that I allowed to accumulate, and I'll talk about that in future episodes about, living an entrepreneurial risk-filled life and the hazards of that. And I put myself through incredible stresses because of my lifestyle and choices I've made and risks I've taken. But I've also received incredible rewards from that as well. And, it is what it is. So as now my mission in my life is to kill this lump, this squamous cell carcinoma that's trying to kill me. I'm at a war. I'm taking all the resources I can and clearing away all the obstacles that I can to free up more resources and gain more resources. And I believe that the purge has been instrumental in that. Um, and even so much so that in the weeks following my Kambo experience and a subsequent peyote experience after that, um, I came to realize that, I've operated my business out of a facility in a warehouse that costs me a lot of money every month, and my business has not supported that for the last 3 years. And after the pandemic, we just got hit hard. My reps all took a shit on me, and I'm rebuilding the business from the ground up. But I have a major obstacle in that I don't sell to the general public. So we're working through all that, but it came apparent to me. It's like, why do I have this facility and warehouse? What is it doing for me? It's great to be able to show somebody where you work and this great place you have, but it hasn't done anything for me. It hasn't brought me business. It hasn't benefited me in any way, shape, or form. And I got the notion and the clarity that said, purge it. You don't need this anymore. Move back home. It's okay. It's humiliating and it's humbling, but so what? We're not here to be proud. We're here to be alive and functional and as effective as we can be. So I am a huge fan of purging, and I believe that if you're on a road to health, as much as we look at what we're doing to make things better, all of the different actions and activities and things we ingest to benefit us, also think about what can I get rid of? What doesn't serve me? What's holding me back? What is causing me stress? What am I hanging on to that is just ballast or worse? And I would highly recommend, if you uh, have access to, or if you're interested, let me know. I can put you in touch with somebody who serves Kambo. I believe that it's just been an incredible tool in my life, and I plan to do it one more time in the next 6 months to finish a cycle. And but you don't need that. You can just make decisions. Get rid of the stuff that isn't good for you, and don't be afraid to purge. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents for the day. I hope you're having a good one, and let's get out there and be healthy. Talk to you next time. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.